Hey Mike, I got a question for you.
Hi, Dave.
This is one of those situations where we've all been there, right? We're stuck on the hip of a boat to leeward. Off the start, you could be even on the open course or I guess getting out of a leeward mark or something like that. So looking over your shoulder, there's nowhere to go, but maybe the goal is to go left. So I'm stuck on the hip. What do I do? What are my options?
Well, there are, three options. There's the tacking out and tacking back because you want to go left, right? So if you're on starboard, for example, if you want to keep going, you can do a double tack. And in this case, you said, it's a mess, right? Either you can't even do it because it's off the start, or, maybe it's just so much loss. You're gonna have to duck 5 boat lanes. And so that's one option, though, is to double tack. Another option is to stick it out. You're going to slowly lose, but you're still going left, and maybe there's time for a little opening development. Maybe you can tack out and tack back eventually. But the double tack is a loss too. So there's a third option that I think is underutilized, and I use it quite a bit, and that's the reach through.
Hmm.
So the reach through is, well, let me show you. I'll
Yeah.
give it, I got a little
Sounds like
sail.
sounds like a good thing about reaching through life. It's all good. You're happy, right? It's just a reach around the course. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, well, no, it's a temporary thing. You reach down like any maneuver you do, anytime you do a tactical situation, whether it's a double tack or a duck or anything, you're losing something.
Hmm.
So you're going to lose in this a little, but perhaps it's less than a double tack or tacking the mess or sticking it out and gets you on the course. So let me show you. You see my screen okay?
I do. Ooh, sail
All right,
talks.
I'm just going to play it through once and then we can talk about it. So,
All right, on the blue boat here. Ah, I'm stuck.
yep.
Uh,
Yeah, so you kind of reestablish yourself to leeward. So if we kind of look at that again, your boat, you're the windward boat there, and you're not going to live there, right? And you can't tack out. So if you just bear off, set your sails, and reach through, you can pop out on the other side. And it works because, your wind shadow, I don't know, maybe it looks something like this, right? Like you're out of their wind shadow. And you can tell because your apparent wind is here. So as long as your apparent wind is voicing in front of this boat, even though you're bow back a little bit or bow even and parallel down a couple boat lengths, you're clear air. This is kind of the setup that we go for when we're two boat testing. Almost bow to bow, maybe a little further forward on the leeward boat, but it's a really good way. You can hold your lane here for a while. Sure, better than sitting in dirty air.
hmm. The hard part, right, is the mental. Is there a mental side of this? Like when you bear away and reach through, you just feel like, okay, I'm giving up, right? I'm losing, but there's a long-term play to this.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we can talk about that. So suppose you want to go left, I'm not sure what I just did there, but that's okay. But suppose you want to go left and let's take the second version of this. Like what if you wait a little too long? So you're here, and instead of bearing off right away and going behind, you just kind of fall back a little further, and then you have to like go further behind. And now like it's harder to escape the wind shadow.
Hmm.
So the timing of this is critical, right? So here's the wind shadow. You're still trying to get through this wind shadow. Um, I find if you do it so that you're kind of like a duck up, like if you're on port ducking a starboard boat, you want to go nip their rudder. You want to get through their dirty air quick and all that. And that's how you do it. You reach through and you just rip through that dirty air and reestablish stuff by going really close. And in this video here, you see yourself, you wait a little longer, even a half a boat length, and you find yourself in this long, wide trail of dirty air. And then by the time you get out, you're way back here. Before you get free of the clear air, you're way back here before you get clear.
Hmm. Paralleling the ladder rungs, which so you're not doing yourself much favor as you're waiting. The longer you wait, the
Yeah.
worse it gets. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to be clear here, the wind is straight down the screen here, and these dotted lines represent the ladder rung. So now you're a full 3 boat lanes back, ladder rung wise. And that's boat lengths upwind. So it's significant.
How do you recognize? I mean, so I know it's wind speed and boat type or difference, but what is too long? At some point, there's a sort of reaction time. You just do it, or you just kind of keep hoping and hoping and hoping, and then you're too late. So, how do you, in your experience, how do you find that? Okay, you're stuck. Just do it. Do the reach through and get out of there.
I think the way to handle that is it's by the time you think about it and do the analysis and everything, it's probably too late. You lose pretty quickly.
Mm.
You could easily lose that quarter half boat length. It's gonna, I think the way to get that mentally in your head is to say, this is a legitimate option. And I often ask my tactician, I'm the one that feels it, right? And I can see them looking for a way out. And I'm like, how about a reach through, Justin? And Justin will go, yes. He's like, oh yeah, good idea. Like I'm the one thinking of it because I see that slot to leeward. I'm like, I just want to be there.
Mm.
But I think if you have it in your head ahead of time as a viable option, you can just boom, do it. And if you don't, you have to analyze it, it's too late.
Yeah. All right. So, well, do you have a diagram of a clearing tack? Let's say there is a little bit of space over our shoulder. I mean, how much am I losing by two quick tacks, assuming that they're good tacks?
Right. So if you go back a little bit, so suppose, green and blue are the starting at the same point here. Here's your two options. Like green is the hang on a second. Let me here we go. So if green tacks and tacks back, they lose a little on each tack. You're losing a little by reaching through. And look at the ladder rungs. They're really similar, right?
Mm.
They're both like a ladder rung and a half back from the red boat. He both has lost, so they're already starting a little back, right? Like you're starting back here. You're pretty even, but maybe you're a quarter boat length back, and you're going to lose something in both cases. So maybe you both lose a boat length, and if your boat tack's slow, if you lose a boat length attack, you're going to be back even further if you're the green boat.
Yeah. And obviously the reason why you double tack is you're trying to get left in this scenario anyway. So now you've given away where you're trying to get to.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not saying that double tacking is invalid. I mean, in this case, if you look at it, the boat tacks pretty well. They're pretty even.
Hmm.
Like you're losing the same amount by ducking, by reaching through as you are by double tacking. But, as you said in your first scenario, that's often not an option. Come off the starting line, you don't have a clear lane to double tack it unless it just happened to, if you see it, great. But if you don't, yeah, you might have gigantic losses tacking and ducking and repositioning and then tack over just to find yourself in just as bad a spot.
Yeah. And chances are you're driving yourself deeper into the middle of the fleet, the second row starters or whatever it is, that you're just kind of going towards the traffic density, right? And I imagine also at a leeward-mark gate exit, a double tack takes you a little more in the middle of the course where it's probably a little less breeze and a little more chopped up.
Yeah, and one of the keys to this is there can't be a boat here, right? You can't have somebody like if there's a boat in front of one,
Mm,
of red, if there's, a yellow boat here, then you're not free. So
yeah.
I've come around a leeward mark unless there's a gap in front of that boat, either because you're second around the gate or there was second of your group. Maybe there's a few people way ahead and you still have a space. So there's got to be a space down here. You can't just go reach either into the same situation with a boat here
Yeah.
or
Let's
reach.
do it again. Reach through. Next thing you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
But that's really no different than trying to do a clearing tack into a crowd, right? You're
Mhm.
just going into another mess, you know?
Okay, so let's take us back to I'm just on the hip. What's my options for kind of just going high and slow and hoping I kind of have this high mode to just keep sticking it out as you do.
Yeah, so that's a valid move too. So this is the exact same starting position and you could have tacked out, you could have reached through, but sometimes my tactician will say you just have to survive for a little while because there's nowhere else to go. You can't reach through either. There's boats down there. You can't
Mhm.
tack because there's a mess. And you're just going to slowly bleed, right? You're going to go a little high and slow, and that boat's going to pull away. About here, they're probably able to cross almost, tack and cross if they wanted to. It's a terrible feeling. But think about this. This is painful, but you've still only lost three-quarters of a boat length or something, to the ladder rungs. And what I find is sometimes, and I'll get impatient. I'm like, come on, we got to find a way out. And my tactician will, talk me off the cliff. He'll say, hey man, you just give me another 20 seconds. I think it's gonna, you got to survive 20 more seconds. I think it's going to it starts to thin out, right? There's other people like you that have had bad starts, and they're your problems, right? The people in the front row you're going to attack and be behind. It's the next row, so they're going to want to clear too. So as they clear, he's like, okay, now we got a lane. You got to duck this one guy, a little duck, and then you're free.
Okay. Boy, speaking of second row starters, what if I'm directly behind this first boat, right? You've got the diagram ready to go. Fantastic.
Yeah, so this is
Does the reach through work here?
yeah, and this could be a scenario that you're for example, if this could be the leeward-mark scenario,
Mhm.
right? You're around or a start, you're clearly second row, somebody had just stomped you. They pulled the trigger and rolled you with 10 seconds to go because they had a better line sight or whatever. So you can still reach through. It's just a lot like waiting too long,
Mhm.
and that you got to go through a pretty significant wind shadow. Like the wind shadow is just big and painful, right? So back to that, what that wind shadow looks like, right? You know, you just maybe it's even further than that, right? Like it's just you're trying to get through this mess, and it's just hard.
Mm.
I find that the quick reach right here, you're starting here, you reach through, you only have a half a boat length to go through. It actually, if you're right by the stern, it goes quick. But this is still valid, right? You just play this out. So let's see. It's let me stop it here and get right to a ladder rung. So if we look at ladder rungs, it's 1, 2, 3 and a quarter behind. Where did we start? We probably started 1.5. So another boat length and half or two boat lengths lost and you're free, which sounds terrible, but if double tack could cost you two boat lengths, tacking into traffic could cost you 20, 10.
Yeah.
So it's still a viable option.
Okay. And do me a favor, if you can bring back your diagram on the done right, if the proper reach through.
Done right. Let's see. All right. I am back with the done right.
Just a
Yeah.
couple thought. I mean, just to sort of nuance it just a little bit. The thought process if you're in strong winds versus light breeze. I mean, what's the decision making change there? It's blowing 20 versus 5 feet.
Certainly once you're moving well, as you get up to hull speed and above, this is way less painful than if it's really light. Like you're reaching with a lot of speed. So you're gaining speed as you do this. So that counters the dirty air.
Mhm.
But if it's really light, like I think if you did this late and it was really light, you might never make it through, right? You could just be like sucked up into this vortex of dirty air behind the boat. So I think, for sure you can get through better with as the windier it is, and you got to be a little more careful, and you really need to do it soon if it's light air.
Okay. So this is a good windy air move and but so
Well, it's a
coming back
good
to
light air
just
move too. Like I think it's very valid in light air too.
Hmm,
Think about tacking into traffic in light air. That could
right.
be, you're comparing it against, you screwed up, right? You're not in a good spot. You're not going to get out of it for free.
Yeah.
So this is just a valid option to get out of it.
All right, so take me back to my last question, back to the beginning of this setup here where you're on the
Yep.
hip. Um, I know this is probably boat dependent, but would you go a little bit artificially high and slow to create a little bit of space to be able to duck and just miss the rudder, or yeah, how do you kind of set yourself up for the duck? I guess would be the question.
Well, yeah, like if you're here and you can't bear off, right? Then you might have to do a little wiggle, go
Yeah.
up, go a little slow and then bear down. I don't overthink it. Like, I think you accelerate so well when you reach off, right? You're bearing off. And, I think because you accelerate so well, I think you just do it, right? If you have to unhook, just like if you're going to do a clearing tack and there's a boat above you that's too close, you got to do a little wiggle first. But also you could buy yourself a little time. Suppose you're here, you're not going to live long, but maybe it's better to wait a few seconds to let it play out, right? Like maybe you wait a few seconds and you're way higher for some reason, or it does clear out. So you don't have to rush it and you can let it naturally fall back. Or you can say, here's my opportunity. I'm going to slow down for a second, go high, and then do a really nice fast reach across, do a
Okay,
beam.
so as I always say, that's my last question, but I do have one more then. So important to this duck in these kind of turns, though, can you explain a little bit on the sail trim part of this and just making sure that the trimmers are everybody's ready for, in terms of using weight and trimming the sails to turn the boat without using a lot of rudder.
Yeah, that's a great question. Just like if you're doing your clearing tack, if your tacks are better, it's more valid, right? If you do a really nice reach, it seems obvious, but you're going to be better. And I think there's a couple keys. One is to use a little body weight, heel to weather to help so you use less rudder. You're gonna, let both jib and main out, but maybe you ease the main a little bit more than the jib to help you turn, just like you would the opposite of running a leeward-mark, where you might
Mhm.
trim in your main a little bit before the jib, so the jib doesn't pull your bow down. Well, here you want to maybe lag with the jib ease so that it helps pull the bow down. But mostly you just want to keep perfect flow over both sails. And the last thing with that is to steer with your weight, ease the sails. But the last thing with that is, I always, especially if it's a little bit windy, I tag my vang and I make sure I don't just ease the main to get the boom out and then just twist and left the top of the main.
Gotcha. And make sure that everybody on the boat knows what's happening before you do it.
Yeah, kind of like ready about
Yeah.
3, 2, 1 tacking. It's you do okay, we're doing a reach through. Okay, here we go now, or 3, 2, 1 reach through. It's probably the language I should use, but I'm not sure what I actually say in the heat of the moment.
All right, sweet. All right, I'm gonna add the reach through to my toolbox. And don't be afraid. Like I think it's sometimes a lot of us just like it feels like we're giving up. But that's not the case.
Well, we are giving up, and the fact is, if you're doing a clearing tack or sticking it out, you're giving up too. You're just more used to giving it up. I think it's a little bit like ducking versus tacking. Like your temptation as you approach a starboard tactor is, I'm going to plant the lee bow or I'm going to tack to leeward him. I really don't want to duck and give that up. In the meantime, you've tacked, you've given up in the tack. If your tack boat's a little slow, you could hold bow length, and then now you're going the opposite way you wanted to go. So maybe you give up more, but you're used to that. You feel like you're not giving up because it's not a direct give up. And the bear off is a direct to do a duck is a direct giveaway. And so is this. So it's
Mhm.
it's a little harder to take mentally.
Yeah,
So
not anymore. It's proven. It's in the box.
I use this quite a bit in the open course. I use it around marks. I use it off the start as I'm looking for my options the way out. And it's a right on the top of my list. I've done it successfully quite a bit. It's such a comfort. You get through and you're like, that wasn't so bad. But more importantly, especially a big fleet, if you have that one gap below, now you're just focusing, 15 seconds later, you're focused on sailing fast. Where if you attacked the mess, you're bobbing and weaving and you're not focusing on the race yet.
Yeah. All right, great advice. Thank you again, Mike. As always.
All right, thanks, Dave.
Feel smarter already.